Tenamwari. 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 Be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe, Kozai, Mozimu Mukuru. Give praises unto our great ancestors because our ancestors are indeed worthy to be praised.
Word.
Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodiye, African power and African liberation for all African people. Tendai Mwari. Hunhu, Ubuntu, science is spiritual science, being the practical looking into the self. It is the practical means of gazing within. Self-inquiry is posing the question. Spiritual science is the practical attempt to answer those questions. The path leading within needs a practical approach with clear instructions and provable results. The scientific way is tamper-proof. It is not prone to manipulation. Hunhu, Ubuntu, Ma'at, science is the practical looking into the self, a gentle, unruly gaze into the crystal clear pool of Hunhu, Ubuntu. How to look, where to look, all this is clear in the heart and mind of the Hunhu Ubuntu scientist. Tendai Mwari. This word sound is taken from the sacred gospel of Hunhu Ubuntu, which is codified in the tradition of our ancestors in Southern Africa in general and our ancient Shona ancestors in particular. The term Hunhu and Ubuntu mean the same thing. Hunhu and Ubuntu, also referred to in the text as the Great Law, is what brings cosmic order to the universe. And that cosmic order is replicated and seen to be imitated through the social order that we create as a people. Because as African people, we understand and understand that our political, economic organization should be a reflection of the cosmic order based upon what we learn from nature, because being a nature-based people, we seek to be in harmony with nature. Is everybody with me? Yeah. So Hunhu and Ubuntu is the social order, and thereby, as being the social order, is also the geopolitical economic order that governs our lives. What? As African people, we are always seeking to be in a state of Ubuntu. What? With each other and with the universe. What? And so the Ubuntu way of life, therefore, becomes a scientific way of life. And I'm hoping that by the end of the message, you will understand a bit more how that applies, kings and queens. But before I go any further, let me just emphasize the fact that we are living in an historical moment at this moment in time. That our people around the world, particularly on the African continent, are rising up. And we need to be in tune with the time that we are living in. There's many moving parts. Everything where we are seeing might not be exactly what we think it is. Yeah. And there are some things that we are not seeing that might be exactly what we are looking for. Yeah. What is true, however, is that there is the spirit of revolution in our people, and our people are rising up, kings and queens. And so as Africans who are living in Rome, we have to do our best to connect, to fortify and support our brothers and sisters who are on the front line in Mali, on the front line in Senegal, on the front line in Burkina Faso, on the front line in Guinea, on the front line in Niger, on the front line in Congo, on the front line in Azania, South Africa, in Ethiopia, in Mozambique and Namibia, on the front line in Haiti. Let's not forget Haiti. Everywhere with the kings and queens, particularly in Africa and the Caribbean. Very, very important that we connect. Yeah, it's easy for us to forget, when we live in Babylon, we're trying to do what we're doing. But the front line is where our people are in the majority. And the reality is that our people on the front line are going to be called to make certain sacrifices that in reality we who are living here are not going to be called to make in the same way. Is everybody with me? Yeah? So I want to put this message in the historical moment so you understand how critical it is. Tendamwadi. I also want to call the name of an ancestor who recently departed. Not going to say much, kings and queens, but this is a man who joined the movement as a teenager, 16, 17 years old, joined the Black Liberation Army and later the Republic of New Africa. In the 1980s, he was incarcerated and remained a political prisoner from 1986, until the year 2022, kings and queens. December of 2022. He passed away on the 6th of July, 2023. The man, the elder, the warrior, the revolutionary, the healer of which I speak is Baba Matulu Shakur. Can we just please hail him, please? As Uncle Olatunji has said, we don't really have time for this message, yeah? Really and truly, we need a good 2 hours at least. Yeah, and I look forward to the day when, as a community, we are ready and able for a 2-hour message. And that don't nobody, yeah? I'm a student of Amos Wilson, and Amos Wilson teaches us the problems that we have to solve require long, extensive conversation and interrogation. Yeah? So today is not the day for that, but just know that that day will come, and for a subject such as this, that day is necessary. All right? But I'm going to get through as much as I can get through this evening, so you're going to have to buckle your seatbelt because I'm going to move very quickly. Okay? But Uncle Tunji is right. Please take your notes, because most of the time, you will see places where you can find the information that I'm going to be sharing and as we go through. I never deliver a message dealing with the legacy of Papa Garvey without hailing these two individuals. Yeah, the first is Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey, and the second is Baba Tony Martin, because as Garvey scholars, Garvey researchers, we are really standing on the shoulders of these two people. Baba Tony Martin is in fact standing on the shoulders of Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey, and we all stand on the shoulders of them both, because without them, we would not know what it is that we know today about his legacy, about his life, about the UNIA-ACL. So the subject is scientific Garveyism, a working idealism for the 21st century and beyond. Let us begin by defining what is Garveyism. It's a good question, right? So I'm going to read first. It said, the theory and practice of African people engage in liberatory nation building as exemplified by the life and work of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Brother Leader says it is the sum total of the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, encapsulating the man, the vision, and the plan. Yeah? And as you can see here, for the sake of rhyme, I've added the people. Now, initially I had the man, the people, the vision, the plan. For the sake of rhyme, I put the people, the man, the vision, the plan. Yeah? And I'm emphasizing this because oftentimes we focus on Marcus Garvey, the man. And that's good. It's a good start. Yeah? It's impossible, however, to understand Marcus Garvey outside of the context of the people, yes, from which he came and the people through which he was organizing. Is everybody following me? Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to explain this a little bit further. Yeah. Let's go forward as we explain some definitions. Right. Scientific, conducted in the manner of science, according to the results of investigation by science, practicing or using through thorough or systematic methods. That's what we mean by scientific. We're engaged in results, investigation to glean results, and action taken based upon the results that we have found. And through that process, we are able to systematize our practice. Mm-hmm. Is everybody with me? Yeah. That's all that scientific means. It's a methodology for solving certain problems. All right? And so we draw from the wellspring of wisdom of Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey. It is particularly important. You'll find this in More Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. It's the final chapter. Yeah? And she says, Garveyism is not only a theoretical philosophy. You just read some Garvey. I've read Philosophies and Opinions. No, Garveyism is not only a theoretical philosophy, but a what? Working idealism. Geared to the crying needs of an entire race. And when I read this first, I had to stop and pause and consider the words working idealism. What does that mean? I'm suggesting as Garveyites, we need to adopt this terminology and popularize it for our understanding of the work of Papa Garvey and the UNIA-ACL. It is a working idealism geared towards the crying needs of an entire race. What does she mean? As we go further, the philosophers of Europe, England, and white America are the products of many sophisticated cultures. Industrial and agricultural, mechanized economies, politically disciplined people revering white power. Few of them were activists, much less reformers. Invariably, they prefer to do revolutionary writing. Yeah? Their philosophers cannot be wholly applicable to Garveyism because he based his findings and movement on the historical and current black experiences all over the globe. Mm-hmm. Is everybody with me? Yeah. He plumbed the depth of our oppression and degradation and bared them to the world. He gave to his people a new set of values in a world where race is the criterion of human standards. Mm-hmm. And the white race considered themselves superior men. He gave black people a new dimension, new horizons that transcended national boundaries, languages, and religions. He lifted their spirits to the heights of true manhood and womanhood. Yeah. This is the only African mysticism that some people wonder about. I'm reading this so you get some of the principles that we associate with what we call in Garveyism. Yeah. That it must be grounded in the historical and current experiences of African people. Are you following me? Yeah. That it cannot be just a philosophical approach, but one that is grounded in actual activity among African people. Yeah. That it cannot be based upon philosophies wholly drawn from the historical or current experiences of other people. Mm-hmm. that don't mean that we can't learn from other people. Yeah? The words of Papa Garvey is replete with lessons drawn from other people. But we cannot take them thing wholly and apply it to ourselves.
Word. Come on.
Is everybody with me?
Yeah, word sound. Come on.
Mama Amy Jakes goes forward, and there are few better authorities, kings and queens, if any, that we can begin and ground such a message in than the words of Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey. I hope you're appreciating the words of our mama. Garvey sought to revive the spirit of black people from despair to hope, from lethargy to what? Positive action, from fear to courage, from inertia to assertiveness, from anti-discrimination dodges to manly confrontation.
Come on! Read that one there again.
Mistake! From anti-discrimination dodges to manly confrontation.
Yes.
He gave them goals possible to man, the highest creation of God, because he believed with all his heart in the innate abilities of the black race. Be prepared,
come on,
he shouted, and the masses followed him, for he had awakened in them the real purpose of life, to live as men and to die like men.
Word sound. Come on, people, wake up. Bring the word, ShakaRa.
And this is why I say it's impossible to overstand Garveyism just by reading philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey.
Yeah, come on.
Yes? You have to go deeper than that. Yeah? You don't just have to read the words of the man. You have to study the work of the man.
Yeah.
Because the example of the man goes beyond just the written word. And then once you study the words and the work of the man, you have to study the work of the organization. Of the millions of men, women, and children around the world who are organizing along the lines of this program.
Yeah.
That's scientific. Because different methodologies were used throughout the length and breadth of the UNIA-ACL, the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. The same strategy we're working in America might not work in Panama and Suriname. Are you following me?
Yeah.
The same strategy we're working at Trinidad and Jamaica might not be applied the same way in South Africa and Benin. Are you following me?
Yeah.
That's what you call being scientific. So the first principle I want to emphasize is that we who call ourselves Garveyites, we who call ourselves organizers within Garveyism, we who call ourselves researchers of Garveyism, have to extend our research beyond the simplistic personality of the prophet. We're not just dealing with biography. This is a working idealism.
Yeah.
Biography is good. And biography is necessary. But it's not sufficient. Are you following me?
Yeah.
All right.
Bring it.
The second thing I want to emphasize is that the true appreciation of Garveyism as a working idealism is not to be found in the study of Garveyism on an intellectual level, as an academic subject. Garveyism as a working idealism. So the true application and study of Garveyism is to be found in doing the work. In engaging in the work. You can be a Garvey scholar and not be a Garveyite. Yeah, a Garvey scholar just has to research Garveyism. A Garveyite has to be involved in the working idealism. Is everybody with me? Yeah. All right. So we're emphasizing this now because it's necessary for us to take our liberation fight forward. Yeah. And in order to do so, Garveyism, yeah, which I'm going to later redefine, cannot be a stagnant ideology that is simply based upon knowing the words of the prophet who lived 100 or so years ago. It must be a methodology through which we can draw from principles that we can apply, update, add to, and refine to our current circumstances. That's what a methodology is. A methodology cannot remain stagnant because conditions are constantly changing. Conditions are constantly evolving. That's what science is. Yes, you're constantly in the process of re-engaging, re-experimenting, updating the theory, the philosophy, and applying it to the current context. Are you following me? All right. I would read the vision. We're going to skip the vision for the sake of time. Okay? Except to emphasize that this is a man who traveled the African world, studying the conditions of African people. Now, the principle here is that we need to study the African world. And if we can travel the African world, we should do it. But we're lucky because we live in the time of advanced science and technology, where it doesn't become necessarily to travel the African world, yes, but we can study it from where we're there. And it's necessary to develop a purview of Wagwan in the African world, kings and queens, yes? And then once we've done so, we ask the question, yeah? Papa Garvey said, I ask, where is the black man's government? Where is his king, his kingdom? Where is his president, his country, his ambassador, his army, his navy, his men and women of big affairs? I could not find them. Then I declared, I will help to make them. The word I like to emphasize here is the word help. Him never saying go and do it by himself. No. Me one, I go create it. He said, I will help. Because him overstand first and foremost, yeah, it took for people before me to bring me to where I am now, and it's going to take my effort to bring others to where they need to be. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, let's move forward. Yeah? It's for me to inform you that the Universal Negro Improvement Association is an organization that seeks to unite into one solid body the 400 million Africans of the world, to link up the 50 million Africans of the United States of America with the 30 million Africans of the West Indies, the 40 million Africans of South and Central America with the 280 million Africans of Africa for the purpose of furthering our industrial, commercial, educational, social, and political conditions. Emphasizing industrial, commercial, educational, social, and political conditions. There are two terminologies that are commonly used to refer to what we call Garveyism. Yeah? Garveyism would more properly be referred to as Afrikan Fundamentalism or Universal Afrikan Nationalism. Okay? The term Afrikan Fundamentalism comes from a paper that Papa Garvey wrote himself. Yeah? And Universal Afrikan Nationalism is reference to, so how it can be explained is that Afrikan fundamentalism is the basic principles. Yes, it's the spirit, yeah, of the thing, of Garveyism. Universal Afrikan nationalism can be conceptualized as the overall program and goal, yes, of Garveyism. Are you following me? Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that that's certified. I'm saying that's how it can be conceptualized, yeah? And so to explain this further, fundamentalism is strict adherence to the basic principles of any subject or discipline. That's fundamentalism. Yeah? Key terminology, strict adherence. Yeah. We're not deviate from the thing. Yeah. Come on. Are you following me? Yeah. All right. Universal, including or covering all or a whole, collectively or distributively without limit or exception. Yeah? That's what universal means. So that's why when you see the term universal in the UNIA-ACL, that's what it means, yeah? To give further explanation of this, shout out to the ancestor, Mama Frances Cress Wilson, who popularizes the areas of people activity, yes? Which are education, economics, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war or counter-war. Yeah? So universal means there is an application for African nationalism in every area of people activity. That it must be all-encompassing. That we're not universal African nationalists, yes, at home, but not in the workplace. We're not universal African nationalists, yeah, on the platform, but not in the bedroom. Are you following me?
Yeah.
That universal African nationalism has an application within economics, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, and counter-war. It must be universal. Every aspect of our lives, because liberation must be a holistic process.
Yes.
That's what universal means. We can overlook the term universal. Negro Improvement Association, Universal African Legion, Universal Black Cross Nurses. The term is replicated often to emphasize the all-encompassing nature of the program. Universal. And I've got it like this with culture in the center because you understand that there's a symbiotic relationship between culture as it reinforces all of the areas of people activity and all of the areas of people activity as they reinforce the culture. But we're going to get into that a little bit later on. Yeah. So the basic principles. Yeah. As I said, African fundamentalism can be defined as the basic principles, and then when they are applied towards the goal is universal African nationalism. The basic principles are race first. Self-reliance. Nationhood. These are the basic principles as identified by Baba Tony Martin. Yes? And through our conversations with him, we've added one, with his blessing, which is African spiritual orthodoxy. Yeah? That's Brother Leader's addition. Because, you see, Garveyism is a working idealism. So as we glean more, from the legacy, we add to it. Yeah? Alright? So I'm going to add the term cultural in that. Yeah? I'm going to say African spiritual cultural orthodoxy. And the reason why I'm adding it is for emphasis, and that emphasis will become clear later on. All right? So bear this in mind. So we're going to go through the basic principles of African fundamentalism and extract some of the scientific application of those principles. Is everybody with me? I know it's a lot. Yeah? It's very technical. Our whole heap of words, they're on the screen. Bear with me. And I hope I'm articulate and charismatic and good looking enough to maintain, the levels. All right? 10-1. Okay. Race first. What does it mean? In a world of wolves, one must go armed. And one of the most powerful defensive weapons within reach of African people is the practice of race first. In all parts of the world. That's Papa Garvey. Yes? So, what does this mean in action? Yeah? Looking at the legacy of Papa Garvey and the UNIA-ACL, I'm drawing some definitive principles from the idea of race first. And the first is that our most fundamental identity is that we are an African people. That comes first. before all other considerations. In the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement, we define race first as race awareness and cultural emancipation first, before all other considerations. Yes. So that the first thing is that we must see our fundamental identity as African. Everything else is secondary. I'm an African from Jamaica. I'm an African from Ghana. I'm an African from Haiti. I'm an African from Sudan. I'm an African from Brazil. I'm an African from Suriname. Fundamental African. Everything else is secondary. Does that make sense? All right? This is necessary because African represents our largest social aggregate. Social, geopolitical, and cultural aggregate. It is the identity through which we can exercise the most power should we choose to wield it.
Yeah, all right.
We must be consciously emphasizing, cultivating, and strengthening the African identity.
Yes. Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that there are not variations within the African identity. There are. I'm an African Yoruba. I'm an African Bakongo. African Kromanti.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And if we're consciously doing that, for example, we develop our variations in synchrony with the African identity for the purpose of strengthening our relatedness with Africans everywhere else. Are you following me? Yeah? So in essence, now, we use the term Kromanti to refer to our maroon so-called ancestors. Effectively, Kromanti can be used to describe everybody in Jamaica. Does that make sense? Because all of the ancestors are Kromanti. So we could, as Africans from Jamaica, for example, identify ourselves as Kromanti. That's our ethnicity within what it means to be African. Just like there is Yoruba, Igbo, Bakongo, Zulu, Xhosa, etc., etc. Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
We have to emphasize the fundamentality of Africanness. And then from that foundation, 3 primary principles I'm identifying for the purpose of this message. That Africans are a biocultural entity. Biological, cultural entity. Bio simply means that we have a unique set of ancestors, a unique relationship with the ecology of Mama Africa that has produced us in particular kinds of ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We are a biocultural entity. That means that there are certain unique characteristics culturally in terms of what it means to be African. That we are a unique group of people as a biocultural entity. And then, establishing ourselves as a biocultural entity, African people are a geopolitical entity. Geology, related to land. Yes? Yeah. Political. There are certain social realities that are distinct to African people, and therefore certain social intentionalities that are distinct to African people. Is everybody following me?
Yeah.
So we are a biocultural entity, we are a geopolitical entity. Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
All right? These two are very important because without that foundation, there is no liberation movement. And the goal of the oppressor is to delegitimize the peoplehood of us as Africans. To make the African identity delegitimate. So that it doesn't form a cohesive organizational foundation for us to build from. So that's why when we're trying to be scientific, it's necessary to break it down. What does it mean to be African? Where do we come from, Africa? Yes. But we must be more scientific than that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Are you following me? That's why we say biocultural entity, geopolitical entity. And then, from that foundation, African people who are concerned with bettering the conditions of African people must cast our lot with the masses of African people. This is important because we must be able to differentiate between African faces in high places and Africans who act in the interest of African people. Is everybody with me? Yeah. I'm going to focus on this one for a little bit. Yeah? Papa Garvey himself says, no man can convince me contrary to my belief, because my belief is founded upon a hard, horrible experience. Not a personal experience, but a racial experience. Yeah. African people, to be raised first, you must cast your lot with the masses of African people. Yes? Papa Garvey says, I had to decide whether to please my friends and become one of the black whites of Jamaica and be reasonably prosperous. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Or come out openly and help defend and improve and protect the integrity of the black millions and suffer. Yes, I decided to do the latter. Hence my offense against colored black-white society in the colonies and in America. Papa Garvey identified that he was in a position whereby he could have made himself prosperous at the expense of the masses of the people. He decided to cast his lot with the masses of the people and suffer. An example of this, we're being scientific, right? So we're looking at the methodology, yeah? Papa Garvey, prior to the founding of the UNIA-ACL, begins some activism in Costa Rica, yes? Among a group of miners. And he's been given the job of a timekeeper, which is a position of relative authority. It's like middle management. Yeah, you're in between the workers and the big boss them. Yeah? Poor working conditions. Papa Garvey starts a newspaper advocating on behalf of the workers. The workers decide to strike. They ask Papa Garvey to lead the strike. They're advocating for higher pay, better working conditions. The bosses call Papa Garvey to a meeting. Tell him, brethren, we are dealing with them workers there. What about them, man? You know, leave them alone. We give you a pay rise, give you some goodies and rotate. Yeah? Papa Garvey told them to go to hell, in words, and led the strike on behalf of the workers. Is everybody with me? Yeah. So we don't ascend the colonial ladder or the neo-colonial ladder at the expense of the masses. If the masses are not prospering, we are not prospering. That's race first. Yeah? Yeah. Race first isn't we've got a black president. Yeah. Even in Africa and the Caribbean, that's not race first. Race first isn't a black man owned business. Mm-hmm. Are you following me? Yeah. Race first isn't we have black millionaires. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tell us. Come on. Race first isn't representation on British television. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Come on. Are you with me? Yeah. For it to be race first, the question must be asked, how does this forward the condition and agenda and the interest of the masses of African people? That's race first. This has to be emphasized. There are some mischievous elements, even within the African liberation movement, who would like to distill race first into a recognition of skin deep association, as though there are no deeper principles behind it. You following me?
Yeah.
That once it's black, it's all good with us. Yeah? That's not what Papa Garvey was dealing with.
No.
I want you to know that. Yeah? Papa Garvey continues. Garvey's disapproval with unrestrained capitalism extended to the nascent upper crust of his own race. Garvey, in 1924, expressed this idea thus: we have not only to fight the white capitalists, but we have also to fight the capitalistic Negro. This is Papa Garvey talking. The Negro enough money. The Negro in government. Yeah? He says, he will sell his own people to hell.
Come on.
The same as anybody else. Papa Garvey continues, the Negro or colored race is developing a class of millionaires or money hoarders, much more dangerous to the race's life and existence than any similar group of men among any other race. This is what you call class analysis, brothers and sisters.
There you go.
In Garveyism.
There you go.
Are you following me?
Class analysis. Class analysis.
Wait, what you're seeing here is some old school movement dynamics, kings and queens. Don't worry about it. Everything good, all right? Don't worry. All right, so let's deal with this, yeah? As I said earlier, the goal of the oppressor is to delegitimize the African identity as a biocultural, geopolitical entity. Yes?
Yeah.
And what we're seeing now is through the scientific realm, this attempt is coming. Prior to World War II, mass European War II, race was everything. It was legitimate. But the white man realized how decadent his racism was, not because of what was perpetrated against African people, but because of what was perpetrated against the Jewish community in Israel. And realized, if when I start out this thing here, it's going to come to destroy us. Yeah? Because of what the Germans did in Germany and throughout Europe. All right? So the white man decided that the problem was not his racism, but the concept of race in general. Because the white man is not capable of seeing differences among humanity without making those differences antagonistic and oppressive in his favor. But also, the white man realized after mass European War II that the people that the white man was oppressing were beginning to organize themselves as biocultural and geopolitical entities. So the white man has to engage a new social order that allows what will become unique and distinct geopolitical and biocultural entities to continue to attach themselves to him and his civilization. Is everybody with me? We're not denying the fact that race, to a significant degree as the white man has defined it, is a myth. Are you following me? Yes. All right? But the white man has defined race as many different things. And what the white man does now is put forward a biological argument that says humanity is African. We are all African. Why? Because humanity began in Africa. Now notice, those are two different statements. Humanity began in Africa is not necessarily the same thing as all humans are Africans. Does that make sense? You can affirm one and not the other. Yeah? So as African people, coming out of the legacy of people like Baba Sheikh Anta Diop, we can affirm that humanity began in Africa. But African people, as a biocultural and geopolitical entity, are a unique group of people within humanity.
Word. Yes.
So this is not a scientific statement. We are all Africans. It is a political statement.
Yeah.
And as African people, we need to be on guard against this political statement.
Yeah.
Is everybody with me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Tanamwari. The second principle of African fundamentalism, Universal Afrikan Nationalism, is self-reliance. Yes?
Yeah.
Power is the only argument that satisfies man. Except the individual, the nation, the race has power that is exclusive. We must have power that is exclusive to us.
Yeah.
Yes? That individual, nation, or race will be bound by the will of others who possess this great qualification. Hence, it is advisable for the Negro to get power of every kind. Power in education, power in science, power in industry, power in politics, power in higher government. That kind of power that will stand out so that other races and nations will see, if not feel.
Word. Word.
One of the things that I want to achieve in the presentation is to bring you the words of leading lights of the UNIA-ACL other than Papa Garvey. Does that make sense? Yeah. This is one of them. Yeah, he goes by the name of Robert L. Poston. Yeah, time doesn't allow to go into his history in too much significance, except to say that he was one of those who led a delegation to Liberia on behalf of the UNIA-ACL in 1924. All right?
Yeah.
And in an essay that he wrote for the Negro World, entitled Wall Street Gives 50,000 for the study of Negro history in 1922, yeah? He wrote these words. The Daily Press announced last week that the Carnegie and Rockefeller Foundations, bear those names in mind because those foundations still exist today.
That's right.
They are big white capitalists with whole heap of money that define the geopolitical order as we know it right here now.
Yeah, that's right.
Are you following me? Mm-hmm. Let me read it again. We're being scientific today.
Yeah.
All right? Is everybody all right?
Yes.
Say this word for me. Scientific.
Scientific.
Say it again. Scientific.
Scientific.
Let's get scientific now. All right? The Daily Press announced last week that the Carnegie and Rockefeller Foundations have given $50,000 to who? Carter G. Woodson. Who is Carter G. Woodson? The founder of Black History Month. The father, dubbed, of Black history. Yes? Great African man. Carnegie and Rockefeller has given him $50,000. Robert L. Poston now is analyzing the nature of this gift. To be used for the study of Negro history. We are not among those who think that every gift coming from white people has a string attached to it and should be considered dangerous. But in view of the fact that gifts coming from the above named foundations are always questionable.
Come on.
Not sometimes, most of the time, an exceeding amount of the time. Always questionable.
Yes.
We wish to remind those who have to do with the spending of this money of some of the dangers that may lurk in the way.
Come on.
while it is hoped that the 50,000 given to Mr. Woodson for the study of Negro history is given without any harmful conditions attached to it, yet there is a possibility that such is not the case, and it is up to the people to see to it that these wealthy men with their money do not impose upon us a viewpoint detrimental to our best interests.
Come on. Come on.
We must cast our lot with the masses of African people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Woodson, with whom we are acquainted, is a highly educated gentleman who gives us the impression of being a new Negro. That means he's good. Stand up African with integrity. That's what new Negro meant in the 1920s.
Yeah.
Are you following me? But there is a danger in spending money given to you by other people. And Mr. Woodson's job is going to be spending Rockefeller and Carnegie's money without accepting Rockefeller and Carnegie's viewpoint. We trust that Mr. Woodson will be successful in doing this, but in the event he is not, God help us all. For nothing could have a more harmful effect on the Negro than a Negro history dictated by white capitalists.
Come on.
So if the African's history can't be dictated by white capitalists, can the African's political interest be dictated by white capitalists? Can the African's economic interest be dictated by white capitalists? You not hear what the thing say, you know. You not tuning in the thing proper, you know. Yeah? Now, to Carter G. Woodson's credit, he became one of the strongest advocates against receiving white money for the teaching of African history. Yeah? If you know his history, he grew to that point. Began to reject their money. Alright? But the point here is self-reliance and what that truly means. And self-reliance not just means we must generate from our own agency, it means we must be very vigilant about the geopolitical interest at play today, right now. Time doesn't allow to delve into Carnegie and Rockefeller and their role in today's geopolitical context, but just understand, it's very, very important if we're being scientific. Tendai Mwari? Garvey lives! Mosiah lives! I just realized I never said that from a day up here. Professor Garvey lives. Yeah? Mosiah lives.
Yeah.
Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari.
That's a scientific statement. Yeah? Garvey lives is a scientific statement.
Yeah.
Oh, you know that. Alright? The word sound, that will become clear. Well, it won't become clear today, but at some point in the not too distant future, hopefully. Tendai Mwari. For the sake of time, I'm gonna move from self-reliance, yeah? And go on to by the way, on the point, just to explain, I'm not gonna read it, but this is from the course of African philosophy, which was taught between 1937 and 1939. And it's explaining that the funds of the UNIA-ACL must be used for the masses of African people, that no individual or group of individuals can commandeer the funds of the UNIA-ACL. Is everybody with me? Yeah. It presupposes that, it emphasizes the idea that the wealth of the people must be used by and for the masses of the people.
Yeah.
Yes? That we're not creating no capitalist class here with the power to define the destiny of African people.
Come on. Come on.
Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
All right? Well, we have more time to go into this some more. Nationhood. Now, what's very important is to understand that Garveyism is not business development.
Come on.
I didn't say that Garveyites shouldn't develop businesses.
Yeah, come on.
I said Garveyism is not business development.
Yeah.
Has to be emphasized. There are many Garveyites who are out here claiming to be Garveyites, and The extent of their Garveyism is black business. Buy black. The black pound. It's not Garveyism. It's a part of Garveyism. It's not Garveyism. Because you have a business doesn't make your business a Garveyite business. Doesn't even make it a black business. And the only way to understand business development within the context of Garveyism is to understand business development within the context of nationhood and nation building. If you take it out of the context of nation building, you have taken it out of the context of Garveyism. Garveyism is not just about having a number of black businesses operating on Brixton High Street in a room. It's connecting those businesses with a community interest. Yes? And connecting that local African community interest with a global African world interest. That's Garveyism, scientifically speaking. All right? All right. Many people are, some with good intentions. Yes? Mislabeling the thing. You have to be clear. And in essence, you know, it could be said, you know, that the term scientific Garveyism is redundant. Because Garveyism is scientific. However, by emphasizing the terminology, we are encouraging ourselves to be more scientific in our appreciation of Garveyism. And that means there are some popular myths that we have to dispel. I'm going to have to end on this particular point. All right? There is more. I have to end on this particular point. Nationhood. What is nationhood? Papa Garvey says nationhood is the only means. What am I saying?
Nationhood is the only means.
One of the means?
No.
One of many options?
No.
Nation is the only means by which modern civilization can completely protect itself. Buying black is not the only means. Is that believe me? Financial literacy is not the only means. Black business is not the only means. Nationhood is the only means by which modern civilization can completely protect itself. Independence of nationality. We must have an identity that is our own. Independence of government is the means of protecting not only the individual but the group. Nationhood is the highest ideal of all peoples. It is the highest social organization of any group of people is to have a nation. Then don't worry. Sound clash. That too. So don't worry. All right? The program to be explained in a few words is that of universal, remember that word? Industrial, educational, religious, social, and political freedom. The stranger will ask, why should you want political freedom when Victoria of England gave it to you 84 years ago? He's referring to emancipation from slavery. Yeah? And Lincoln of America gave it to you 57 years ago. He's referring to, again, Emancipation Proclamation in America. I am tempted to answer you and to say that the present day Negro does not believe in hypocrisy and camouflage. He believes in truth, in honesty, in justice. The freedom that Lincoln gave us means that half of the population of our race in America is still voteless and voiceless. All of the population of the race in America is deprived of the higher right of citizenship that makes each and everyone an equal under the Constitution. These are the things that the Universal Negro Improvement Association questions. These are the things that we are to discuss at our present convention. Whether we will accept, listen carefully now, whether we will accept civilization as it is, or put it under a rigid examination to make it what it ought to be as far as our race is concerned. Not only are we not politically and religiously free, as aforesaid, but socially we are not free. Economically we are not free. And we of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, who have called you together in this mighty convention, believe that if you must be free, you yourselves must strike the blow. Lincoln can't free you.
Yeah.
Victoria of England can't free you. If Negroes must be free, then 400 million of us must organize the world over and strike the blow for our freedom, the freedom we desire. Anything less than this is a diminishment of who we are as African people. If we don't have nationhood, if we are made citizens of the United Kingdom of Great Britain, if we have black MPs in Parliament, if we have a president of the United States of America, if the richest man in Britain is a black man, if we get black history on the national curriculum, and all over television, all of it is a diminishment of the best of ourselves as African people. Yeah. It's Garveyism. Or nationhood. It's all good to get black history on the curriculum. It's all good stuff. Especially because most of we doing at the school. Yeah, it's good stuff. Not that we shouldn't agitate for it. But it is a poor substitute as an ultimate goal for nationhood.
That's right. Come on.
We're not dealing with nationhood, we're not dealing with Garveyism. Because only through nationhood can we be universal and holistic in our application of what it means to be a free and liberated people. Cannot be liberated under the government of other people, Papa Garvey says so. Especially the colonizers. Yeah? Liberation is not the colonizer accepting you and embracing you. Make sense? Tell don't worry. I'm gonna end on this. Yeah? It's a very good example of how this was applied scientifically. Like I said to you, I'm going to try to introduce other voices than the prophet. Understanding that the UNIA had millions of members around the world. And a good number of those millions have some good things to say. And we should hear their voices. Yes? This is an article that was published in the Negro World newspaper in 1923. Unfortunately, it was unsigned. We don't know who actually wrote the article. But the article was inspired by another African who is named in the piece. Are you following me?
Yeah.
It says, and I put this, I want people to understand the way that Africans were thinking in the UNIA-ACL 100 years ago. This is 1923. This is exactly a century ago. Yes? It says, it is a very generally accepted fact that a common habitat, language, and religion make for a homogeneous people and a distinct nationality. Listen carefully. An Italian philosopher laid this as law, and there can be no reasonable appeal from it. Yeah? So now the man who's writing the article said, well, yeah, you know, we've drawn something from the Italian philosopher. But now I take the Italian philosophy wholesale. But what this particular Italian said was true and useful. Are you following me? We have not seen the question discussed with a livelier sense of its application to the African people than in an article by a native African. That means an African on the continent. Yes? Signing himself Ahinana. Yes? Published in our esteemed contemporary, the Gold Coast leader. The Gold Coast, what is now known as Ghana, under colonialism was known as the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast leader was a newspaper that was in Ghana, and I believe people like J.E. Casely Hayford were leading members of that publication team, and they were agitating for, it was an anti-colonial, anti-imperialist newspaper. Make sense? Mm-hmm. All right? That was connected to the Negro World newspaper. Yeah? From Ghana, sorry, I've already said, yeah, from that was in what was then known as the Gold Coast under British colonialism. Okay? The Gold Coast leader was connected with the Negro World, and you will find articles, yeah, that, you know, are used in both publications. Okay? Of October, and which we produce in another column of the Negro and Literature. Mr. Ahinana, in discussing the quote, the opinion of some that the West African should neglect the cultivation of his language and adopt English for everyday use, and also discard the use of his national customs even on suitable occasions, unquote, reaches the conclusion that, quote, it has got to be remembered that the soul of a people is its language. And that once that is destroyed, its inspiration is gone. There are certain modes of thought and depths of feeling which Asante, an indigenous people group in Ghana, for example, can never express in any other way save his own language, unquote. The person who's writing this editorial now says, in analyzing the words of Mr. Ahinana, he very wisely concludes that we shall be committing national suicide if, as a people, we lose any opportunity of preserving our language and developing a literature of our own. But a real clarion note is the following. Don't you make the mistake. The soul of a people is in its language, and to ape others is to be denationalized.
Come on. Word song.
I'm emphasizing, look at the title of the article. African language and literature make for what? So we're not talking about speaking our languages as a vain exercise. It has a political intentionality. Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
Finally, Mr. Ahinana hopes that soon there will be chairs in our own universities, our what?
Own universities.
Okay, for the proper study and cultivation of Fanti, Hausa, and Yoruba. This is an African in Ghana. Yes?
Yeah.
Speaking about Fanti, Hausa, and Yoruba. The latter two are not languages that are popularly spoken in Ghana. Hausa a little bit. Yoruba, mostly in Nigeria. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Okay? As standard African languages, we consider this a very thoughtful and forward-looking view of the question. The learned Americans and Europeans find it difficult to so master a language not their own as to catch the full spirit, feeling and meaning of it, and reflect these in their conversations and translations. Our great missionary associations, we Africans organizing in the diaspora, our great missionary associations could adopt generally the policy of teaching the people in their native language by first mastering it themselves and reducing it to a system where this has not already been done. I'm not going to read the rest because of time. Yeah? But I want you to understand how our ancestors were thinking in 1923 and what problems that they were trying to solve that we still haven't solved in 2023. Everywhere we're there, as African people, a colonized language like the one I'm speaking now is the language of instruction, government, science, and technology. Brothers and sisters, part of the reason why we don't have an African nationality and a sense of African nationhood. I'm going to wrap up here. Yeah, now. There's so much kings and queens, all right? There's so much. Yeah? But, by the way, I just want to say that is Bishop Alexander Maguire. Yeah? And I have to say he's from Antigua. Brap, brap. Mr. Brap, brap. All right? All right. This is Queen Mama Mariam Samad. Yeah? So these are names that we need to know. These are Garveyites. Yeah, that we need to know. All right? And she's here because she's actually credited with the coining of the term dashiki. Okay? By the way, this is her as an elder, and this is her as a young woman. Yeah? On the cover of a magazine called African Opinion. All right? Okay? And we get back to Queen Mama Amy Jakes Garvey. Want to emphasize the fact that all of this is to be actioned through organization. Yeah? If we're not organized, we're not dealing with Garveyism. There are many principles that we can glean from the organizational framework of the UNIA-ACL. The one that I want to highlight for today is the imperative of woman leadership. Woman leadership was systematized and institutionalized within the UNIA-ACL. Is everybody with me? Yeah? Okay. We could talk about Papa Garvey's word sounds on science. I'm just going to read this one. The battles of the future, whether they be physical or mental, will be fought on scientific lines. And the race that is able to produce the highest scientific development is the race that will rule. Time doesn't allow to go into the importance of that statement, but I thought it was important for it to be read. Tendamwani. And finally, this is where we need to end. And you'll see why in a second. Papa Garvey says, so the enemies and traitors are crazy if they think they can damage the Universal Negro Improvement Association. I am speaking to you as the man who founded and organized the Universal Negro Improvement Association, as the man who sacrificed and suffered to bring it into existence. The Universal Negro Improvement Association, into existence, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. I had a motive and a purpose. It was not the money, because I could have gotten that for myself and been satisfied. It was not position, because I could have gotten that for myself. He says, what was it? It was the crying voice from the grave that said, Garvey, we have suffered for 250 years for your day and for your time. We expect something from you at this hour.
Come on! Come on! Come on! Bring it, man. Come on.
Let the world understand that Garvey hears the wail and the cry of millions of our forebearers. Crying from the grave. For what? I will not tell you. What do you say? Probably what? Another Garvey will tell you. So let those who fight the UNIA-ACL beware, for someday they will have to reckon with 400 million Negroes. For Garvey is but laying the cornerstone for the coming of a new Africa. Papa Garvey said, look for me in the whirlwind. Papa Garvey understood his role not just in the context of his time. He understood the role in the context of the time and for times to come. We shall fight our enemies for 200 years if needs be, to fight our enemy through our what? Posterity, our children, kings and queens. Look for me in the whirlwind. I began to meditate on this concept of the whirlwind. And the fact that if we're going by numbers and probability of the possibility of African redemption, we probably wouldn't do this work. It occurred to me when I read the words a while ago that Papa Garvey was possessed. You know what the man said? It's the crying voice from what? The grave. This was a man possessed with the spirit of his ancestors.
Yeah.
This was a man possessed with the spirit of African liberation.
Yeah.
And the only way that he was able to achieve what he achieved and sacrifice what he sacrificed is through that spirit possession.
Word.
And so the idea, how do we imbibe that in ourselves as a people? It came to me that context of possession has to be identified and characterized and conceptualized as a people. And Papa Garvey conceptualized it in the whirlwind. Look for me in the whirlwind. Look for me in the storm, for with God's grace I shall come back with countless millions from the grave. Mama Marimba Ali says we have to create symbols. Yes? Create symbols that speak to and conceptualize and give expression to our interests. And this is something that I've just been working with, an energy that I've been working with. Kimbunga means whirlwind in Kiswahili. And the symbol came to me. In order to be Garveyites, kings and queens, it might be the unscientific element of the message. I don't know. Somebody can tell me. We have to be possessed.
Yeah, that's scientific.
It's scientific? All right.
Yeah.
We have to be possessed.
Yeah. What's up?
With the spirit of African liberation. So that when we have children, we can look upon them and say, look for me in the whirlwind.
Yeah.
Look for me, because with God's grace I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and light. And with that, brothers and sisters, I hope you've enjoyed the message. Garvey lives! Messiah lives! Garvey lives! Messiah lives! Garvey lives! Messiah lives! Tenda Mwadi.